when we put out the trailer for our movie, 74, if you go down on YouTube, you'll look at all the death threats. There's also some that we've taken away.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's literally the slogan of the film, which was actually given to me by two best friends, a Greek Cypriot and a Turkish Cypriot. Incidentally, the Greek Cypriot was going to get married on the day of the invasion, and the Turkish Cypriot was going to be her bridesmaid. And they said to me in an interview the one day, you know, we don't understand the difference. They said, because you call it yasami, we call it this, and yet it's still the same flower. And then I said to them, but the world wants you to know that you are different flowers. And she says, yes, but we might be different flowers, but we're still growing in the same garden.
Tell us more about 74, the movie.
Has anything been done to create awareness of 1974 externally? Because I know internally it's everywhere. And the same way we write Denk Sechno in our books, they do it also in the north of Cyprus. You know, the propaganda is there. So I thought, you know, but could we create awareness? Because at the end of the day, Turkey did invade, bottom line. How they invaded, we also know that. It's documented. The consequences of what happened to those women and men and the missing, you can't deny that. Yes, they're going to say they had reason and things happened before, but I still don't excuse the fact that this whole invasion came and it displaced half an island, and now we're living in 2025. You see a flag on a mountain. If you want to make the first step, in my opinion, is take that flag down. You know, all these little things that we're doing that are promoting our island led us to eventually establishing the Cyprus Diaspora Forum. First, we met so much, you know, andistasi, you know, people didn't want us to do it, or they were very threatened by it. But, you know, the one thing that we learned as South African Cypriots, and this I'm sure echoes with all the diaspora, is that we all, irrespective of our backgrounds and our beliefs, we all have one purpose, and that's to highlight our ancestral identity.
Welcome to the Financial Frontiers podcast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon to get notified when we upload new content. Follow us on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. It will help the channel, which I hope you love so much.
So we're going to focus on, just so I give them an idea, we're going to talk, whatever actually.
What I do is we speak about you, your background. We're obviously going to talk about this.
Blow my trumpet. I'm a behind the scenes guy, you know that.
Is it?
Very much.
We'll just have a conversation, that's it. And we'll speak about your professional background, and then obviously we'll bring the discussion about the Cyprus Diaspora Forum. I don't know what you were doing before that, and just basically link it up to a discussion around, you know, what it takes to create, you know, events, and how does the pricing model work, and, you know, what's the purpose, and
can I be transparent? I'm not going to Bible bash anybody.
Full transparent.
Right.
Paul is also making a film for 3 years now.
Oh, yes.
About the war that happened in 74.
Okay.
Yeah.
With
So,
Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Wow.
And he wrote the story.
Okay.
And you are the.
I'm a screenwriter. I'm also an executive producer on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's been taken over by a company that's with HBO and Netflix. So we've been filming like establishing shots, and
cool.
You know, we're in the development phase again.
Oh, awesome.
So now we're about to go into production.
Oh, amazing. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll also talk about, I don't know if you then you might know, what's that lady's name that made that
Stellana.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who she
Very
she
good
got
friend.
that hit on Netflix.
Find Me Falling.
Find Me Falling.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll talk about all
We
of that
all,
stuff.
like, she was even at the forum. We invited her and she spoke in the film.
Stiliana is her name?
Stellana Clarice.
Stellana. You see?
Yeah.
We'll talk about all of that stuff. I think it's interesting.
I've already been recording, so.
Okay.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm not going to post it.
Well, I don't mind. Let it come naturally, whatever.
Yeah.
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 Talk about one you just had and talk about in the next one, the upcoming one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go. We'll let it flow. Paul Lambu.
It's actually, my surname's Garalambos,
Garalambos,
but
okay.
we made it Lambis
Okay.
because they couldn't get it right in South Africa.
Okay.
So it stuck.
Okay.
And then it's Paul Lambis.
Okay.
And it's funny because the Cypriots here will say Lambis
Okay.
because they want to emphasize the I, and it's Lambis.
Okay.
What do they feed you that everybody's successful? Everybody's, whoever I meet from South Africa and Johannes, we're so successful. What do they feed you? Do they teach you something they don't teach us here? I don't know.
They do. They do teach us something that's
Something. There's a culture. It's a culture. It's the.
Background, it's something. Schools, I think it's always
I think also living in an environment that's so dangerous has got something to play with it.
Yeah.
You've got a little bit of an edge, a higher tolerance to risk, because your life is at threat every day, like pretty much.
But I'll tell you what it is, Dino, because I've like really delved into this. We grew up in a society where at school, if we were reprimanded and our parents were called in, our parents took the teacher's side.
Yes.
Here they don't.
Yes.
Here they take the child's side.
Tomorrow.
Exactly. So we tend to make them more sensitive, less resilient, and
so we had
protective.
We had to figure it out.
Yeah, we had to tough it up, and also the fact that we wear proper uniforms. There were rules. There were. It's a tougher society anyway, both off and on the streets. So I mean, apart from also maintaining your identity, which means you have to work harder to preserve your cultural heritage, you tend to add value to everything that you do, and I think that's what sets us apart.
And then I include this in the post, in the production. It's okay. I didn't start it off like we normally do, but it's all good. I mean, this is good stuff. Yeah. No.
That's my opinion.
100%. Yeah. I think it all plays a role. Culture, all of that, the history. South Africans are formidable people.
Yeah. I think anybody that left during the war with their parents and they grew, even people from Australia, I remember my grandson, she lives in Australia. The people there coming back, they're much more cultured than people that live there.
That's why we established the forum, for this and many other reasons, also for the financial, the economic benefits. But I'll explain everything to you why, you know.
And listen, make no mistake, there's some rock solid Cypriots, eh? So,
well, that's why we need to bridge the gap between the two.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so many here also.
Yeah.
Mike, Karambus, Konstantinos, Pavlos,
Yeah.
Mike from 3D Media.
3D.
I love that guy.
And recently we brought Konstantinos to Pavlos
Yes.
to there.
Embiosis, what's the name of
MBO Diagnostics.
MBO Diagnostics, yeah. So it's a super difficult businesses to start, and they're freaking doing it. You know, that's awesome. I love it.
We had a pitching session at the forum with 11 of these companies pitching their ideas to like Dragon's Den style people. So we had like Mitlos Kambodidis, Theopafidis, all these people, and they were pitching it to them, and they were so impressed that literally, I think I should take this phone off in case it makes a noise.
Yeah.
Will it pick it up if it makes a noise?
Ah, it's okay.
Okay.
I've put mine on Do Not Disturb, so
You can put it on silent if you want,
listen, we can put all of this in. It's okay. I mean, this casual conversation.
behind the scenes.
Yeah. You're also going to be now in one of the podcasts.
It doesn't show me, but
It's okay. They hear your voice.
You was the editor? You do the editing?
yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, have fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.
My pleasure.
Okay, let's continue.
Whenever you're ready.
Let's do it. Here we are, another episode of the Financial Frontiers podcast. My guest today, that actually came to a little bit of a surprise. We have the same roots,
Correct.
but actually we turn out to almost be close to family. And
Indirectly or directly related.
indirectly, we're related. Paul Lambis from Cyprus Diaspora Forum, also a movie editor, executive producer, some really interesting topics I feel we're going to have a conversation today on. Entrepreneurship, media, event organizing, all of this stuff. Paul, tell us about you, your background, and let's get started.
Well, Dino, thank you first of all for inviting us. I know it's been it's been a bit of a difficult opportunity for me to actually get here, but I finally did. You know, Bafos is very far from Nicosia, but we finally made it. But thanks again for inviting me onto your podcast. I wish you everything of the best. It seems to be going great, and
thank you.
And hopefully it'll grow from strength to strength. I'm more of a behind the scenes type of guy, which I've said to you, you know, off air. But how would I sum up me? Basically, a member of the diaspora, as you are, that has relocated to his motherland, or his ancestral birthplace, making the most of Cyprus, because I believe Cyprus does have a lot to offer. I think we often look at the negative, and I think that plays a role in whether we should or we shouldn't. But if you look at the positive, I think they outweigh the negative. And Cyprus is an amazing place to actually, you know, call home. Born in South Africa in 1974. I don't know if that number or that year played a role, because it definitely has influenced me into one of the projects that I'm working on. Grew up in South Africa, went to an all-boys school, fought for our cultural heritage, maintained our cultural heritage, learned to respect it, and then, you know, just decided one day South Africa was a chapter I needed to close, and I looked to Cyprus, obviously, for the future. And we've been here since 2002. Yes, tough times, but I don't think we've really looked back. South Africa is a part of our lives that I think defined us, but now it's moving forward. I chose to study graphic design. I studied graphic design. I did marketing. I went into media, worked on a few shows at the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Then we established the Greek radio station in South Africa in 1996. And I was one of the first presenters. So I used to get on and do a daily drive show.
I remember it.
Yeah.
You started the radio station.
I was one of the members. Yeah.
What is it called?
Panellinia Phony, now Panellinia Phony.
Right.
And then it became the Hellenic Radio.
Okay.
So it started in 1996. I think it was a year after I'd met my wife, and then we got married in 97. And it was actually one of the best jobs that I had in my life that paid nothing. It was an inspiration to get up, to go to an environment that you were sharing the same meal with a person that believed in the same culture, that we were like-minded individuals, and we were all driven by one purpose, and that was just to get the Greek and the Cypriot identity out there and to maintain it in a society which we know was very multicultural. And I think we succeeded. At one point, the Hellenic Radio, I remember a few people from Radio 5, which was the #1 radio station in South Africa at the time, they actually came down to see what we were doing or what formula we were employing that made it work. And of course, you know, it was a great thing that brought a lot of Cypriots together and Greeks together. And I think there was always, you know, an underlying purpose that I had, is to bring people together, which has led me to what I'm doing now. But what a wonderful experience. Studied graphic design, worked in the advertising world in South Africa, obviously for various and for known reasons due to the crime, we've all relocated back. And when I came to Cyprus, I thought, should I get back into media? Should I get back into my writing? So I worked mainly in the advertising world, which I have a company at the moment where we brand high-end developments, products. We help artists get off the ground and develop a marketing strategy for them. We develop websites, so we do a above the line and below the line marketing for very high end people and products. That is like the main job.
You currently have that now.
Yes.
Okay.
So apart from that, obviously, I think we sort of slipped into a comfort zone when we came to Cyprus. Overate because we wanted to taste everything that wasn't as accessible as it was in South Africa. And then in 2008, I was in a near-fatal car accident. And I think that was the turning point for me. It was a head-on collision, pelvic break, spinal crack, I was definitely a bita souvlaki mix gone wrong, you know.
goodness.
So, and obviously through the motivation of my wife and a few friends that encouraged me that, you know, what are you doing with your life? And, you know, when you're confined to a bed for 6 months, you're trying to figure things out. I thought, you know what, if I've been spared, then there's obviously a reason. And I have to put that reason, you know, or find it, the purpose of survival. And I think that, you know, encouraged me to look at life a little bit differently. I penned my second book. The first one was a trial in South Africa, which actually did well. We published the second novel here in Cyprus, which was more about a journey of finding the root of everything. So it's called Where is Home? And I had to go back to my roots and understanding why I'm a big fat Greek boy growing up in South Africa and the influences that culture has on your business, on your life, on society, etc. And it was actually a bestseller, which resulted in a series of stand-up shows.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it did well. I was at a phase in my life where I just wanted to get the word out, encourage as many people to literally just don't be down, but be up. And, you know, if you are down, there's only one way, and that's back up again. And apart from that, that actually led to the next step when someone in the audience happened to be from one of the networks in Cyprus, who asked me to write a series based on a dysfunctional family. And it was never picked up, but it was a good exercise because that led me to writing about my production, about the movie 74. So apart from that, I continue to work for branding. I still do that today. It's sometimes I say I hate graphic design, but ultimately you need it. And even with AI coming in, and it doesn't work the same, believe it or not. You can design a logo and allow ChatGPT to do it or AI to do it. It won't be what the client wants. And I'll stand by that 100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's today as it is, there's something in the human touch that AI just cannot pinpoint. I mean, there's my wife is also a graphic designer, and her logos, I love them. The Financial Frontiers actually she did not do, but she's done DGM and another business I'm doing. And they just hit the mark, right? I've tried to do the AI logo creation. I've tried other designers or whatever, but
well, it's also a process, Dino, because, you know, to develop someone's brand or someone's identity or a company's brand, you need to go through that process of understanding the needs and wants of what the client wants. Right. And it's almost like building up your personal brand as well. And then ultimately a symbol that's going to represent what you do. And, you know, we were always taught in our studies that someone should actually look at your logo and understand what type of business you're in. And if they can grasp that, then you've hit the nail on the head. Obviously, you know, things are moving in a very different direction, so you have to keep up with the research. And I think the tools that we have at the moment, yes, they do help to a certain extent. However, identifying a logo or a symbol that speaks about a person's identity, that the computer cannot do. So it's a fun experience, but at the same time, also building one's personal brand is also challenging, but a fun thing to do, which is what we do. We take on a few artists and we help them, you know, just jumpstart their careers in terms of branding correctly, how to, you know, express yourself, what to do, how to do it, to be consistent with what you do, because obviously when you're consistent, you get your results.
What's the name of that company?
Icona.
Icona.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's actually written in a way, Icona is from the South African...
Icona, no way.
There's no way you can't do it. That's the way I see
Cool.
it, from a negative to a positive, but also developing an iconic brand.
Nice.
So we've been working at that for a very long time. At the same time, I wrote another book in Cyprus, which was a good process. We've staged theatrical productions. The one theatrical production that I co-wrote with a friend actually won first place on Broadway. So we actually beat 139 countries in a festival. And it was an amazing experience to actually raise Cyprus's flag. And that, all these little things that we're doing that are promoting our island led us to eventually establishing the Cyprus Diaspora Forum. It's a big project. It's at first we met so much, andistasi, people didn't want us to do it, or they were very threatened by it. But, the one thing that we learned as South African Cypriots, and this I'm sure echoes with all the diaspora, is that we all, irrespective of our backgrounds and our beliefs, we all have one purpose, and that's to highlight our ancestral identity. I mean, in South Africa, I'm sure even when you drove around and you saw a Greek flag on a car, you would want to speed up to that car and find out who it is.
Yes.
And to see, the minute we saw each other, we needed to
Yes.
connect the dots.
Correct.
And that's what it's all about. It's about connecting and moving forward. But it was a whole process. I started a web culture series as well during COVID, which allowed me to interview a lot of Cypriots of the diaspora. And that, it's a building process, and one thing led to the other. And I'm very happy where we are at the moment now. The diaspora has just had its second successful year. We had over 2,200 people coming to the island, but bringing credible people. I'm not saying that, everybody doesn't have value. It's the key players that will create opportunities for the rest. And I think that's very, very important, because when you tap into the individuals that can create opportunity for others, because we know that there are doers, there are followers, there are leaders, and these are the people that can implement the change that's needed for us to move forward. And not only that, to connect the local community with the Cypriots of the diaspora, because I think somewhere along the lines there's a misunderstanding. The diasporans think, what am I going to go do in Cyprus? And the mentality's this and whatever. The Cypriots of the locals think, here come the Westerners to try and educate us, but we know better. But when you actually meet at a conference that people are speaking about finance, fintech, private wealth management, and they start realizing, wait a minute, the Cypriots of the diaspora are pioneering.
Yeah.
And not only that, these ultra high net worth individuals or high net worth individuals are on the same page with other influential people. Maybe we should take a leaf out of their book and see how we can implement it back home. And because the diasporans are driven by the betterment of Cyprus, and the locals want to tap into the mindset of the diaspora so that they can expand their businesses, the bridge becomes narrower and the gap starts closing. And even though the one group is working towards advancing Cyprus in the business world, in the IT world, in the culture world, in the film industry, in the hospitality industry, the locals are also getting onto this bandwagon and expanding their business opportunities. And by that, collectively, we open up more opportunities to foreigners who want to come and invest here. So that's what the forum does. And it plays a pivotal role in not only celebrating Cyprus, but also the people that are working abroad as brand ambassadors. They're good for security diplomacy, economic diplomacy, and also the people that are the working force here on the ground that can actually say to the foreigners, yes, we've got the team in place to support whatever investment you want to make here. So it works as a very, very strong, the synergy is amazing. And then obviously we add in a lot of networking events, and we've had the Cyprus Diaspora Awards. They're known as the CIDIA Awards, which are celebrated on the last night of the forum. And Cypriots from around the world get to nominate Cypriots they feel are excelling in various industries and sectors. And the actual event is like an Oscars. It's a very high-level event, and it happens at the end of the 4-day conference. And people come to this event, and they get to see the winners. They get to network with very high-profile individuals that, you could send millions of emails and they would never answer. But yet they are driven to coming here to see how they can make Cyprus, the best product it can be.
That's awesome.
So
I love it.
It's a bit of like I'm touching things on the surface, but
no, I love it. And you basically created a summary of this whole podcast in the first 10 minutes, but it's all good. We're going to unpack it. And I love what you're doing, with the diaspora, the Cyprus Diaspora Forum.
Thank you.
It is, it's an important perspective, bridging that gap, because, at least my experience, I think maybe you had a bit of a different experience because you went to a Greek school, but when I was in South Africa, we were looked at as alien. You're not a South African, you're a foreigner.
True.
And then we come here, where it's theoretically, our home. The reason we were called foreigners in the country that we were born in, and you come to Cyprus, and then again you're an alien.
True.
Where you're not a Cypriot, you weren't born here, and so I think that is, at least in my experience, an adversity, that we had to deal with. But it's not, as if to say we weren't able to, blend in and make friends in each community. We do it, and I mean, I've got many Cypriot friends. One of my closest friends was Cypriot, born, raised here. So, but there was this kind of, especially when I was in the army. I mean, they were like, and if they're not, the South African to tell us what to do, we're going to teach them, that mentality. But yeah, so that Greek radio, I'm going to go back now. So the Greek radio station that you mentioned, I didn't know you started that. But what you managed to accomplish there was, and especially for the generation like our parents, you brought a piece of home to a foreign country that they were living in. That you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, in terms of making them feel comfortable and bringing people together, the community. Because you'd hear you're in South Africa. It's got nothing to do with I'm thinking now, as my parents, as that generation. I'm away from home. I grew up in Cyprus or Greece, and Greek was the main language, and the radio stations was, and so you're driving in South Africa, but you're listening to a Greek radio station with Greek music. You brought home into the hearts of the people that I think many were feeling homesick.
Yeah. Well, there was a big gap at the moment because, I can't take credit. I'm not the only founder. I mean, there were many people that were part of the team.
Andrea Theodosiou was a DJ.
Andrea Theodosiou was there. Makis Kosioris, Kostas Kosmas.
Yes.
Costa Kosiaki, who also had a disco in South Africa. So all of these, the key was obviously, as DJs that we were in South Africa and having mobile discos, we had access to the latest Greek music because to have a function, you needed to play the music. So we had our CDs in our crates and all that. So the radio station started almost like a pirate radio. So initially we used to borrow airtime from the Portuguese radio station between, I think it was 7 and 9 on a Sunday night. And then when we finally got the okay to have a 24 hours a day radio station, we needed content. We didn't have internet in those days. The news, we had to rely from Ert to send us a fax of an update of the news that was happening in. So we relied a lot of local news as well. So it was an integration of local and international news. And then I remember we got satellite TV in the 90s, and suddenly ERT was available. Yeah. But ERT is obviously the state channel, and it wasn't really giving you what we wanted. So we needed to find the people that would provide the content. And obviously the first people we looked to were the DJs. They are the ones that had the music. They could come in, and the same offer that was made to them was made to me. Come and present a show and play the music, and take calls and requests, and just keep us up to date with the latest songs. So then it started I think immediately the Greek community was drawn to it because there was a show that spoke about Cyprus, and that was a weekly show. There was a show that spoke about Darembetika. There was another one that spoke about the latest music. Then we had cultural programs. And because it happened very quickly, and it just basically took shape on its own.
Okay.
And then it allowed us to start bringing Greek singers to South Africa, and obviously hosting them at the radio station. So we were doing well. And of course, at the time, we were in a very dodgy part of Johannesburg.
Where was it?
Brixton.
Okay.
And we had to, eventually we relocated to the Greek Sporting Club. But up until then, our only source of being up to date was meeting at the Greek Sporting Club on a Sunday, or the Cypriot Brotherhood, and finding out any news from the mainland, from people that had just come back, or obviously watching the satellite connection. I remember we even gathered in 1994, I think it was, when Nelson Mandela was released. And we sat at the Greek Sporting Club all watching Nelson Mandela coming out of prison.
Wow.
And obviously with mixed emotions. But the Greek radio station played a very big part in bridging the Cypriots and the Greeks. Of course, in those days we were all Hellenes, because we all hailed from different parts. I think the Ethiopians, the Cretians, etc. And we all came together celebrating our cultural identity, and the voice was the Greek radio.
Right.
And we built up, at one point we had so many presenters, and then we could separate the quality from the quantity. And that's when Radio 5 actually came in the one day, and they said, there's a few people here that could actually be working on international radio stations. Case in point was Katie Katapodis, who became one of the #1 talk show hosts on 702. And now she's pioneering a whole media company in South Africa. Harry Sideropoulos was another one that was doing very well. And I remember we used to mock Harry because he would be presenting a very cultural endechno programa, which wasn't your mainstream radio music, commercial music. And we used to mock him about that. And yet he became, one of the biggest stars in South Africa at the moment. So a lot of things came out of that. And I think for me, it served a big purpose in connecting people. And when we got to meet then the fans and the stalkers, but that's another story. But the fans was the most important thing, because they were the ones that actually gave us the feedback and what it really meant to them to be part of this community in such a vast open space like Johannesburg. And then, of course, our aim was to go international. We couldn't do it at the time because obviously we didn't have internet, but it served its purpose. And
was any monetization model around it, or was everybody just pro bono?
Okay, well, the thing is, everybody initially was on a volunteer basis. Obviously we had licenses to pay, etc. So then we worked together to basically forming a team that would be your standard team of an X number of people that would be working there full time with salaries. So I was one of those people there. And then obviously getting an income through donations, which is not really safe. But because everybody was driven by that patriotism and to keep it alive, the donations came.
Of course. And also, let's also state this. The community that you're serving, very wealthy, like strong individual, in terms of wealth. A lot of the Greeks and the Cypriots that went there were very successful businessmen, and obviously they're going to give, I would, if I was there, and I'd donate consistently.
Well, we had a whole team of eventually when I left the radio station, because obviously I got married, and then we had a son, and obviously you move on. At that point, there was even a whole sales force of people going around selling advertising spots.
Wow.
And we were producing quality ads, and I was very proud of that. And then obviously, due to crime and us moving to the Greek Sporting Club, the biggest fault there was obviously moving from FM to medium wave and then AM.
Yes.
And then that just, we lost listeners. And then at that point, I think everybody was so up to date with everything that, there were a lot of Greek shops opening, Greek taverns. You could go to any Ocean Basket, or I'm sorry, in product placement here, but fishmongers, they were playing Greek music.
Yes.
So, you felt that you were home. And suddenly the radio station didn't become a very, the heart of the home. It only served its purpose, I think, then for the older community that just needed some sindrofia.
Why'd you lose FM frequency by relocating? Were you not able to continue?
It was a license issue that we had with South Africa. And the problem was when they see somebody doing well, they then increase the value. And they say to you, if you want to stay on FM, this is the amount of money you need. Otherwise, we drop you to a lower frequency. And we didn't have the capital. And that's why I'm saying, if in order to safeguard your business, you also need to put some sort of a safety net there. You can't rely on donations because they're not consistent. And then when you work on an advertising model, you also need to have some other system in place that a percentage of the advertising will cover something to create that support that you need.
Right.
And we didn't have it.
Okay. And so when did that happen? Was that around 99?
Yeah, it was just around between 96, I think we peaked in 1997. I even remember at our wedding, we had gate crashes, some fans were dancing. And at one point we were dancing in the audience and I said to my wife, are they from your side of the family? And she says, no, I thought they were from your side. But that's the impact that we had. And then we moved to the Greek Sporting Club, I think late 98, early 99. And then at that stage, obviously, I was back in the advertising agencies and crime was picking up in South Africa. And your priority suddenly wasn't just to entertain. It was more like to shelter and focus and think, if you've got a child, what's the next step?
Yes.
And it was in the early 2000s where it reached a point, I always say that if you see it in the media, it's relevant. When you hear then via the grapevine that there's so many killings and, tragedies taking place and the media doesn't report it, that's when you need to worry.
Yes.
Because then it becomes a way of life. And we couldn't live like that. So, opportunity came to come to Cyprus. We looked at Greece, obviously. But we thought, Cyprus, they drive the same way, they speak English. You can't get better cheftalia in Greece. You can only get it in Cyprus. So let's come here.
Very important part of the decision.
Food, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've been in Bafo ever since?
Yeah, actually, my family is from Limassol.
Okay.
And when the job offer, because I said I'm not coming to Cyprus if I don't have a job. And the opportunity came to go to Bafo, and I thought, what am I going to go do in Bafo now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to this buzz and and driving in traffic and listening to music. Best decision I ever made. Well, my wife made the decision for us. So we came to Bafo. We were pre-EU, very limited in terms of shops, in terms of what to do. So we did, I'll admit, drive to Limassol on the weekends. And then it started picking up, and then obviously things started happening. Developments were continuing. It was booming. Malls, golf resorts now.
Yeah.
You don't need to leave Bafo. And now, in my opinion, and I'm going to get slashed for this, I think Bafo is one of the best towns to live in Cyprus. Crystal clean. I think the mayor's done an amazing job. He runs it like a sheriff. And it's a town that you're proud to call home. And it doesn't, I'm not going to sideline the other cities because we also love Limassol. That's why we do the forum there. We also believe it's very central and you can see the development that's taking place.
Yeah.
What better way to show somebody that's in the finance world that wants to come and invest a booming city like Limassol.
Yes.
And the difference is that I know a lot of people, and especially the locals, look at it and say, this and the development, and it's changing Limassol. It's making it better,
yes,
in my opinion.
Agreed.
And the investors, the high net worth individuals that come here, the people that we bring for the forum,
yes,
they are the ones that can see ahead that the others can't, and they can see what's happening.
yes.
And look at the people that have come here, the diversity that's coming to Cyprus. And we shouldn't really say, but now Yemisame, Ukrainians, or this or that. Look at what they're offering. Look at the value that they're bringing to the table. And this is the difference why we said that when the locals also see what the Cypriots of the diaspora are doing and the people that they work with, the networks that they are surrounded by, take from them and make it better here. Because then when you make it better here, you create an opportunity for the next generation, and then that brain drain starts slowing down.
I was going to mention it. On this podcast, I've had discussions with directors of the university, the director of research and innovation. This brain drain, brain gain initiative is very real, and even to the level of the president. I think he was recently in the UK with this agenda. Let's bring people here, and you can't be a country. What's the population? It's 800,000. It's not too much. When we talk about business and entrepreneurship, when you want to open up a shop or whatever it is, clothing store or whatever, a big issue here in Cyprus that is not such a big issue in, let's say, South Africa or the UK is the quote almost guarantee of passing traffic.
Yes.
Here, you need to be really strict. It's a bit of a risk. There's not enough people. And so, if you look at Nicosia, a beautiful city, but you walk down Stasikratu and Makariou, which is amazing. I feel spoiled at night. You walk over, it's beautiful, but there are not many people.
It's dead.
It's not many people. They're not enough to support all of these restaurants. And they're somehow managing, but you open up a similar setup somewhere in South Africa, or like in the UK or in the US, boom, you're doing well. So,
but it's all about strategic planning, Dino, because this is, if you allow me, I can give you an example. When we went to New York, we were invited by a Cypriot that was from Nicosia that's just opened up the best buzzing bistro on the corner in Astoria. So, when we actually parked about 3 blocks down from his place, and the queue was as far as that. People waiting to get in. That's traffic. And you're thinking about all these people, they're prepared to stand outside and go, because he's offering something good. So eventually, obviously, we didn't have to wait because we were from Cyprus and we were escorted by, a very prominent Cypriot there. And we walked in, and at one stage I called him and I said, there's an open field right next door to you. And I said to him, if this was Cyprus, someone would take that and open exactly what you are doing next door. We've seen it in Cyprus. There's a bakery here, there's a bakery there. Don't you understand? There's an X amount of people that are going to pass by. So you're either going to get half of his clients or a quarter, but differentiate yourself. So he answers and he says to me, well, actually, the plot next door was bought by an Israeli. And he came up to me and he said, what can I do here that can benefit both of us? Wow. And he's decided, and when I visited New York a few years later, he had already built a 4-story car park. So he could accommodate all those people that want to go to his place, and obviously other businesses around there next door to him. And he benefits from the parking fees, the other guy benefits, and now they've even got a joint collaboration that if you park there and eat there, you both win. And you don't need to park 3 blocks down in New York. So I thought, this is the healthy competitive mindset that we need here. Instead of saying, I must steal Dino's clients, I must think of something that can better not only myself, but also the people around me, and that will allow both of us to grow. And this is why the diaspora bring this fresh outlook to Cyprus. They're not here because this bakery is doing that. Let me go open one because there's a lot of people passing by. They're going to open up a bakery, but within a 5-mile radius. And then they're going to say, but what different products can I offer that's going to make the person go to both?
Yes, correct.
And that's what separates. And this is why when we look at traffic, our model was to bring the diasporans that have this experience to the table and allow them to meet with the locals. Even government officials come to the, we have ministers and ambassadors and dignitaries and policymakers come to the forum, because it's a forum that allows you to listen, not talk. We don't want them, the government comes to the forum. Yes, they do talk because it's important for them to update us on what their strategy is all about, what they're doing, from the Minister of Finance to, the Deputy Minister of Research and Innovation, etc., etc. But at the same time, listen to what's being done abroad to see how we can also change.
Yes.
And one of the most important things, and I keep hitting hard on it, and I think the Deputy Minister of Tourism is actually going to go for it one day. But we need to also speak out and be honest about what we see. In my opinion, the Ministry of Tourism has a very big role to play on how we communicate Cyprus abroad.
Yes.
Not internally. We know the story
100%.
internally.
Yes.
We need to see how we can communicate it abroad. Have we done enough research to see what the target audience wants to hear about Cyprus? What do they want to see? I saw a recent campaign of an elderly couple going up to the Vonar and cutting a bit of the leaves and making tea to promote agro-tourism. Yes, you've got that market. You've got those Nordic countries that want to come here and go hiking and experience that whole thing. But you've also got medicine, health tourism. You've got the film industry. Show them that they can come here and what they can experience as tourists.
Universities.
Correct. And this is why the forum that we do is we showcase all the industries and sectors. Because it's very important for someone, we say to somebody, come and deal with a company that deals with private equity or wealth management, etc., family wealth, come and invest your money, come buy property or relocate. Yes. So when they come to the forum, they get to listen to the health industry, the real estate industry, the education, because they're all inextricably linked. Somebody that wants to relocate also wants to know if he or she have a family, what type of education.
The kids.
The health sector, what does it offer me?
Yeah.
Is there infrastructure, the transport, how does it work? What are the plans? And obviously Cyprus is rapidly becoming an IT hub. And the gaming industry, I think we're actually number one in the world at the moment because of the influx that are from Ukraine. Why are we not embracing that?
Oh, gaming, you mean not iGaming, not casinos and
No,
sports?
I'm talking about animation.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing well.
Yeah.
So, we could communicate that as part of our tourism strategy. And not only that, let's say, I'll give a pure example. Dr. Linda Papadopoulos is a renowned psychologist who's based in the UK. She's got millions of followers. She comes to the forum.
Nice.
She says, use me.
Yeah, it's great. Yes.
Where's the Ministry of Tourism to come and say, you know what, let's put her somewhere that she can say, Cyprus for health, Cyprus for this. And those are the adverts and those are the messages we need to get out there. Once we get that out, we don't communicate that with sun and sea. Cyprus is sun and sea, but Malta is sun and sea, Greece is sun and sea. How do we differentiate? That needs to be the biggest question that we need to ask so that we can move forward. And that goes across from every sector. I mean, there's Andrea Zafirakou, who was voted the best teacher in the world, who's based in the UK, developed a model that combines music and culture and art, but she also educates finance. These are important things to put together at a young age. Is our educational model okay for what's happening right now in the world? Do we need to implement other things? Do we need to teach AI? Because it's the next thing that, so all these things need to come into play and not just stick to the old models because they don't work anymore.
100%. And, also in terms of, I think things like what you're doing, what's happening over here with the podcast thing, it's not just mine. It's this message that needs to be, broadcasted and, inform, let, other people outside know. We need to also be transparent about, the pros and cons. I think platforms like this, someone who's listening to this, who has the ability to fix the negative things that are happening in Cyprus, it's good, to just all cards are open. And I was actually having a discussion with, was in Armenia recently, and there was a couple who were asking me, they stay in Ibiza now, and they can't do that it's too loud for them, and they want a more relaxed kind of vibe, but they love the sun, right? So and they said, what about Cyprus? And this couple is from Norway and Denmark, where everything there government-wise is like clockwork.
Yes.
And so I wanted to be transparent. Cyprus has got all that you want, sun, sea, all of that is there, and there's also all this other stuff, education. We've got a lot of good things going, which we mentioned over here. There's also the aspect, and I think the government's getting better, but when it comes to procedures, legal, government, we need to improve.
Well, we're still stuck on the paperwork system.
We're still stuck on the paperwork. We're moving into a digital, digitalization is an initiative. We got to speed it up.
Yeah.
Because I cannot lie to somebody who's asking me and telling I need to be transparent. I only speak good about Cyprus, but if it's coming from individuals who are from the Denmarks of the world, the Norways of the world, where everything is, you want your whatever. I'm sure there are parts of the government that we're super fast on. Like you want to go and get your ID, done.
Yes, it happens.
That's the experience there is very different. But I mean, I can tell you on the legislative side, our justice system needs to be fixed, and other like real estate or whatever. So I'm sure that the government knows, but it's good to put just a transparent kind of discussion over here. Mm. That is one thing, and it's not as if we don't care for it. We'll fix it, and just like every country, it's got its pros and cons. This is just an open, transparent discussion. I think we've got all these great things going on, but it's also good to mention these things. So how else are you going to improve them?
Well, it's like, Dino, when we, for example, I'll bring it back to the forum. When we're planning now the third forum, which is next year, we don't just suck out of our thumbs the topics that are going to be discussed. We go to industry professionals and we say to them from now, what do you see within your industry in 2026? And we don't only ask locally, internationally as well. Sometimes they could be aligned, but we've seen from our experience that they're not. And that is because the strategy, I think, it is unfortunate that we're a divided island and that we have this lingering open 51-year-old wound that is just thrown from one president to the next. And obviously each one wants to be the last one that resolved the Cyprus problem. But the longer it takes, the harder.
Yes.
I don't want to be negative, but, there is another event that happens every year with the diaspora that the government organizes. They bring them every August, the communities from around the world. They talk about the Cyprus problem. Yes, they update them on new things that are happening within the government. And, it's important. It all plays a big role in the whole great scheme of things. But ultimately, what runs the country? The charity or the finance? It's the finance that's running the country, the economic development, the growth, and that's run by the people, the private sectors. So bring those into the fold and speak to them, ask them. And not only, again, the locals, also the international Cypriots that are literally getting Nobel Peace Prizes, that are heading up fleets of ships in countries overseas, that are pioneering in retail, not just using them to promote Cyprus as, because when we spoke to those people in the beginning and we said to them we want to do a forum, and, we said to them, what do you tell people about Cyprus? And they said, well, we look forward to going to Cyprus in August for our holidays. Mm. But other than that, they didn't, they might know that, yes, there's a film industry, but they don't know about the rebate. They know that there's the relocation, but they don't know much about it, or headquartering in Cyprus. Yes, they knew about the real estate, the Golden Visa program, obviously because that became public news. But this is why branding is also important, because when the coined phrase, "this is Cyprus," was looked at as a negative, turn around and create a campaign that goes out saying, this is Cyprus. This is the real side of Cyprus.
100%.
So as branding opportunities come, that's why even your marketeers and your advertising agencies have a big role to play. So when you look at them, and immediately I said, what a brilliant thing. Out of a negative, you can turn it into a positive. So if some individual turned around and said, this is Cyprus, and right now that term is used very, very freely as if, well, if things go wrong, hey, well, this is Cyprus. Why must it be that way? Why can't we turn around and say, no, let's show you what Cyprus is all about?
Yes.
And that's when you tap into the people in the private sector to come forward and speak up and say, that might be Cyprus in your eyes, but this is Cyprus.
Correct.
Create campaigns like that turn negatives into positives. That's why you need the right people there. And I go back to the tourism because that's the key. That's the front line. And, it's inexcusable, in my opinion, when you land in London and you see 500 cabs, now I might be exaggerating the number, promoting North Cyprus.
Yeah.
And, you think, okay, it's Cyprus. Okay, fair enough, it's the North. I don't believe in the division. I don't believe in what's going on, and I wish we could resolve it. But at the end of the day, they're promoting. They're turning a negative into a positive.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
we need to do that as well,
100%.
and I do believe, and I know the government's always in the firing line, especially with what's happening now with the wildfires and all that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, are they making enough effort to showcase the good that they are doing? Yes. I don't think so.
No. Yeah, and I think, this, you mentioned the 51-year-old wound with Cyprus and the last divided city in the world being Nicosia. There's going to be compromises on both sides, I think. That's the only way to address it. You're not going to have a perfect fit solution.
Yeah.
One important thing is, I think, to change the mindset of a lot of the generation that are our age, maybe a bit younger, and who weren't even born in the war, but have a very negative perspective on, the Turkish Cypriots, where if you go and you speak to them, they're great. My Theakrisula, you mentioned, is my parents. They're from my mom from Rizokarpaso, and we go there often. And the local Turkish Cypriots, they get on very well, and I think it's just a matter of address the problem. And actually, I was having a discussion about 2 months ago. This individual, Dimitris Tsingis, actually, he was Dimitris Tsingis. He has FinCap.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was actually on my episode number 4, I think, on the podcast. He also studied political sciences and whatever. He actually, in this discussion, this little meeting we had, laid out what I believe is the solution. It's money. It's all money related. Go and find all these people who have their land. Tell them, here's money. Let's resolve it. When you want to get the community to vote, all they're looking for is, each individual is their piece of land. Mm-hmm. And so what will it cost to compensate all the people that have the land, and everybody agrees, and that's it. Lift the borders and let's just move on. Whatever, there's going to be pros and cons. You're not going to have a perfect solution, and it's very easy to judge. I think you go 5-10 years down the line and say, we shouldn't have done it like that. The people who drew up this policy and the solution didn't think of it. And no, you just don't know how it could pan out. I don't know how Cyprus would have panned out if we had voted yes to the Annan plan.
Yeah. Maybe
it would have been better. Who knows, right? But back then there were so many no. I was yes. I don't know if So
well, the one thing I can say is it's sad but we've experienced it firsthand. We lived in a country that was apartheid,
yes.
And then it was post-apartheid.
Yes.
Yes, you're always going to have somebody that's not happy. That's a given. It's just like, we always say you can never please, what looks like art to someone might look like a child's painting to somebody else. but it's understanding, you know, the process and then also being able to move on afterwards. When I started writing the screenplay for our movie that we're going to be working on now, which is titled 74, I interviewed a lot of refugees, and because I wanted to keep it, you know, neutral and equal and fair, I also interviewed a lot of Turkish Cypriots, Armenian, and I got to hear a lot of sides of the story. There are those that are going to argue, yes, you know, Turkey came to liberate us because of what was happening before, you know, which, you know, there were pretty hard stuff that were happening before 74.
Yes.
And then obviously post 74, you know, you know, an invasion, you can't justify it, and the illegal occupation, you cannot justify that, and the displacement of people and changing the demographics and the putting in extra people from mainland Turkey. I can't excuse things like this, but if we can find a solution, that would be the best way forward, because we're seeing a new generation that's coming up here that are very sensitive. The new generation are not as resilient, and they're very opinionated, but they are driven by the research and the answers that Google is going to give them, or AI. But they're very sensitive. They're not, you know, they're not tough.
Yes.
And that's what worries me, that if this dying generation, not our forefathers, but our generation and maybe the next one afterwards, don't resolve it, we're going to have a very different landscape coming up in the next 20, 30 years if it's not resolved correctly. And I do agree with the money issue. It definitely has to do. I think one of the things that annoyed us as South Africans, when we didn't mind the process of pre and post apartheid, don't get me wrong. What bothered me, though, was the one day I remember driving and taking, I used to work in Rand Park Ridge, which was on the outskirts of Johannesburg, and it was Jan Smuts Avenue. And the one Friday I left work on Jan Smuts Avenue, and on Monday I returned, and it was called Beyers Nordia, who was a activist.
Yes.
And I missed the turnoff, and I nearly went past going, you know, towards I think it was Krugersdorp. And I was thinking, like, you know, is this going to happen here?
Yeah.
How prepared are we if the one road that's called Makarios Avenue offends somebody, and then we have to take away the names? Are we prepared for things like that?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the emotional side of things. The financial, I think, is the easiest.
Yeah.
It's easy to get funding and pay and say, right, you lost that, you got that, shush now, let's move on.
Yes.
How did it work for the Germans and the Jews?
Yeah.
This is what I'm asking. And I mean, you know, to the extent that movies like Schindler's List come out, and you sit and you watch them, it's one of my favorite films, and you see the you know, the suppression and the, you know, the way it happened.
Yes.
And you think, yet there's still Jews that live in Germany nowadays. Germany apologized, which is a big thing. I don't know how it's going to work, because when we put out the trailer for our movie 74, if you go down on YouTube, you'll look at all the death threats. There's also some that we've taken away.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's literally the slogan of the film, which was actually given to me by two best friends, a Greek Cypriot and a Turkish Cypriot, who incidentally, the Greek Cypriot was going to get married on the day of the invasion, and the Turkish Cypriot was going to be her bridesmaid. And they said to me in an interview the one day, you know, we don't understand the difference. They said, because you call it yasami, we call it this, and yet it's still the same flower. And then I said to them, but the world wants you to know that you are different flowers. And she says, yes, but we might be different flowers, but we're still growing in the same garden. And I thought that's such a strong statement to say that we're different flowers, but we're growing in the same garden.
Yes.
And then I saw, you know, like, I think it was one of the Greek islands that there was an Israeli ship that was bordering, I think it was in Sidon, and protesters gathered out screaming and shouting. Chances are the people that are on holiday don't care.
Yeah.
They just want to go and bring money to your country
Yes.
and sit on the beach. No, they must go home. And then they stopped a whole cruise liner from docking in. And I'm thinking, like, what world are we living in?
Yeah. Tell us more about 74, the movie. Is it, you mentioned, is it on YouTube already? Is it on Netflix?
It hasn't been filmed yet. Okay, we've been through many phases. It actually started, the idea, in 2012, and the idea was because as I mentioned to you, I was writing a series on a dysfunctional family for one of the local networks here, and it happened to be that we were filming the pilot episode in July in Scarino.
Okay.
And obviously it was the day to mark the invasion, and we heard the sirens going off, and I thought, has anything been done to create awareness of 1974 externally? Because I know internally it's everywhere. And the same way we write Denk Sechno in our books, they do it also in the north of Cyprus. It's, the propaganda is there. So I thought, but could we create awareness? Because at the end of the day, Turkey did invade, bottom line. How they invaded, we also know that. It's documented. The consequences of what happened to those women and men and the missing, you can't deny that. Yes, they're going to say they had reason and things happened before, but I still don't excuse the fact that this whole invasion came and it displaced half an island, and now we're living in 2025 and you see a flag on a mountain.
Yes.
If you want to make the first step, in my opinion, is take that flag down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That shows already.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to touch it from a political point of view. So I started interviewing. I met with a lot of the mayors that are from the occupied towns. And they gave me lists of people I could go and see, and I interviewed them. And the stories were consistent. The men went to fight, some were beaten, the women experienced hardships, displacement, and the men were the heroes of the story, the ones that I got to speak to, that is. And then I interviewed this couple in Nicosia, and I saw this woman sitting there, but her body language was like turned away from her husband. And I realized there's a story there, but she's not sharing it. And he went on and on about taking the gun and doing this and doing that. And when I left, I said to her, could you please, if you want to share your story with me, you could share it privately, and I won't disclose it. So she said, no, whatever I've told you, my husband said it. He basically spoke for me. And I thought, that's not right, because again, Cyprus is still very a patriarchal society, and she needs to have a voice, this woman.
Sure.
She also experienced the war, so let's see it through her eyes. And she called me up a few days later, and she said to me, could you come back to Nicosia, and I want to tell you my story. Intrigued, obviously.
Yes.
I came.
Yeah.
And I met at another house because that was her request. And when I got into that house, there were about 50 odd women gathered in that home.
Oh, she
gathered.
She prepared.
Her
Okay.
her troops were there.
Okay.
And when I said to her, okay, well, I took out my little recorder, and she says to me, the one woman, what we're about to tell you, you're going to remember a whole lifetime. And my hair still stands up every time I mention it. And I started hearing stories of rape, torture, abortion, self-abortion, Dino. Think of the power that a person has to do that to her own body. And the madness and the psychological state that you should have been. And the one that told me she was going to get married, and she was naive, and when she saw the paratroopers coming down, she thought God sent balloons to decorate the sky. That's how naive she was.
Oh my.
And all these stories, and there were Turkish Cypriots in the same room, one or two Armenians, and I separated them based on the towns that they were from. So obviously the main were Gerinia, Morfu, and Varosi. And I thought, there's the story. Protagonists are going to be women, named after the towns, so they're symbolic representations, and I'll merge the stories from each town into their characters. But let's show it as a movie and not a documentary, because the movie will touch on the emotional aspect. It'll show pre-74, post-74, but against the backdrop of the war, to focus more on the lives of the people, especially the women and the children.
Yes.
Those are the unsung heroes. So the story developed, interviews, and then we thought, okay, once I wrote it as a play, and we staged it in Nicosia with a top cast. We had great actors,
Okay.
and we even did something modern at one point where we wanted to show the timeline of events, like the opening of the borders, and the murder of Dasos Isak and Solomos Solomon through a dance sequence. We even did a few things like that, but
Wow.
playing on the emotion of people. And at some point, you also get to watch the production through a tangled fence, so that the actors feel uncomfortable. They can't engage with the audience, and the audience feels uncomfortable because they can't really see the actors. But it gives you the idea of what it's like having a divide.
Oh, wow.
So it was very symbolical, and the success of that came after a Turkish Cypriot journalist came to watch it. And she said to me, I didn't know the Greek side of the story.
Ah,
I knew our side.
right.
And the Greeks turned around, people that were in the war. First of all, it was staged in English. We also met flack, if I can use that word, at the entrance of the theatre, because they were saying, why is it not in Greek? But you don't want to do it in Greek. You want to create
want to
awareness.
educate other people.
Yeah. And yet, when they left, they couldn't speak, because it played on the emotion and what the woman endured. So the Turkish journalist said to me, come and stage it here in the north. And I said, I can't do that. I don't recognize the northern side. I know that we've got family and extended family that have lost properties there and all that, but I don't recognize it as a state. I don't recognize it as a country. And I couldn't subject the cast to going to perform. We'd be shot.
Yes.
Yes. So she says, well, write it as a screenplay. So I thought, okay, discussed it with my family, because obviously the more you put yourself out there, the more vulnerable you become.
Sure.
So I thought, okay, let's work on it. Wrote it as a screenplay, and then I had to register it. And that's the fun part, because the title of the movie is 74. So when you file this at the Screenwriters Guild in Greece and in Hollywood and in the UK, it automatically goes numerical and then alphabetical. And then it was literally a month after. This was now filed in the vaults. And as you know, directors go, they pick and they look and they read through scripts, and then they decide which one they want to do. And I get a call the one night from a woman who says that she's from the China Film Group, and they're working with, I think it was with not Warner Brothers, one of the other companies, with Paramount, sorry. And they were working on Fast and Furious, and they were in Indonesia, and they wanted to fly me to Indonesia to discuss the potential of producing 74. So I thought it was a joke. I thought one of my mates was playing a joke on me, and I said, sure, not a problem, and I closed the phone. But then the email came, and then I said to my wife, I think this is legit. I think they really want, and then she phoned again, and she was persistent. So I said, look, if you guys want to come, you want to really pick it up, you should come here. Because obviously with every film you produce a pitch deck to show them what scenes you want to depict and then obviously I showed them scenes from the theatrical production. And then they said, okay. And to cut a long story short, we worked through a whole process of going through it. And then, they also said commercializing the script. So this is the funny part. Now, I was always taught that if you want to grab an American audience's attention, you've got to reveal the plot in the first 5 minutes of the film. But cultural pieces like this, or indie pieces, or the art films that they call them, your European audience, you can reveal the plot in 20 minutes or in half an hour, because the European audience researches before they go watch a film. The American audience doesn't.
Okay.
They want to know there's a hijacking in the first 5 minutes. They've got the story now. Now they'll wait until they see how it happens, which is what we do on our podcast anyway. We show highlights and then we go through.
Right.
Yeah. But that's to catch the attention span. But it doesn't really have to be an American audience. Nowadays, because we're all moving so fast, it's almost like a billboard. You've got 3 seconds to catch someone's attention. But nevertheless, they wanted to butcher the script
Okay.
so that it can appeal to an American audience. And I said no. So I lost the deal with them.
With this China, what is it called?
China Film Group
China
and
Film
Paramount.
And Paramount.
But then, you know, it got picked up by other companies, and then we were at the point where we were literally ready to start filming. And we had this huge press junket, and everybody came to the Royal Apollonia. We flew in the actors, everybody was there. And a month later, COVID hits. So, what do you do now? There's your dream. So, do you either go and hide in a corner, or, you know, or take it as a sign that it's not meant to be, which a lot of people said to me, oh, it's not meant to be. But out of that, you have to create the opportunity to make it happen.
Yes.
It has to happen.
Yes.
If it's the financial aspect, you've got to find a way if you wanted to. And I feel very obligated to all the women, and especially the people that I've interviewed for this film, that their stories need to be heard from both sides.
Yeah.
And it happened that through COVID, we started a web cultural series. And that's how I built up the relationships with the Cypriots of the diaspora, interviewing them, whether on Skype or whether when we had those windows where people could travel, they would come here and we would do interviews, showcasing the hidden gems of Cyprus, not just your average top 10 that you find on TripAdvisor. And the show picked up, and then through that, I got investors again because they liked what we were doing. And then we got to the point where now we at a very good place, and we're ready basically to go back into filming.
Okay.
So we've done a lot of the work, budgets, everything's in place. It's all approved. I know that it's been a long process, but the thing is, I'm also very stubborn in that sense. When you have a vision,
Yes.
you can't alter that vision. And I think this is one of, it could be bad or it could be good, but I want to see it done in a specific way. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right. You also mentioned in 2008 you had a near-death experience. I've had someone else on this podcast who's had a similar experience, near-death experience, and 4 years bedridden, whatever it is, said the same thing that you said. You know, your perspective in life is this existential experience, you know, and how you view life and your priorities, how they change. I find it interesting how, you know, you feel you have some form of calling when this happens, and your mindset changes. I get the feeling that you're even a bit happier. I don't know, you know, more content. You know, appreciate the smaller things that we generally take for granted. And you know, maybe this is your calling. I think the story of 74 could impact, you know, at a significant level. You know, maybe that is what creates the catalyst that creates the solution, you know, to this problem. You just don't know where it could go, right?
But I think I don't know where anything's going to go.
Yeah.
And yes, I feel that the accident that happened was a turning point. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that it was beautiful, because there are days that I'm so frustrated because you get to live with the pain every day, and you're on cortisons and you're picking up weight, and people don't know the chapter that you're on, and they tend to judge, but that doesn't bother me anymore. But there are times where I think, why did it happen? But then the majority of the time I keep thinking, well, let's make sure, because if you've been spared, then you've obviously got a job to do. And I think the impact that, I don't want to say because it takes a team to do everything, be it your spouse, be it the family that's next to you, or the people that believe in what you're doing. That team helps you realize a vision. And, you know, there's people that are the leaders, there's the followers, there are those that will support you, there's the ones that want to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, but at the end of the day, what we set out to do is happening. We are making change through the forum. We are making change with the movie. At some point, I think it's going to be an opportunity for both Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots to sit down and just say, okay, now we're getting an overall view without politics on the table.
Right.
Just to understand the emotional aspect. Because if you're driven by emotion, sometimes it's a good or bad thing. But in this case, I think it'll help us be a little bit more understanding And, tolerance and understanding are very important parts to anything, even in business.
Sure.
And then it helps build trust again, and then you move forward. I know there's a lot of things that are happening. I know, I mean, people might judge me and say, well, you didn't lose a property in the war, or you didn't this, or you didn't that. But because I'm a Cypriot, and I'm a proud Cypriot, whatever the next Cypriot is experiencing, I take it as if it's also my problem, because at the end of the day, it represents who we are as a people. So whether I've lost or you've gained, we share in that, the joy. If I see that he's doing well, I'm not going to be jealous, but I'm going to understand what is the formula that he's using so that I can use it as well. If he's lost, look what's happening with the wildfires. People are getting together. They're gathering supplies and all that to help those people. And, I find it ironic that half of us are heading to Ayia Napa for the weekend, and the other half are sitting there trying to count, a few of their belongings that are left behind from the fires. It's, but I do believe at the end of the day that if we come together as a nation, and I see a lot of Turkish Cypriots that are posting on social media that they're filling up their cars and they're bringing them over to the south to donate. It just shows you that if humanity comes together and you park something aside,
Yes.
you can find a solution. And that's why I do believe as Cyprus, as a business model now, if we go back to the business side of things, it has what it takes to be a successful business model.
Yes.
Not only strategically, but the people that are here, even the Cypriots that are from the diaspora that have relocated here, that are creating opportunities for the locals that are taking what the Cypriots overseas, well, they've gone and they studied, they're very educated people and are implementing these changes. I think we're working towards a very, very solid and a very desirable model. I don't know how long it will take to get there.
Yeah.
But I hope that the 74 issue still doesn't draw us back.
Yes.
Because when everything goes wrong, we keep saying, well, we're a divided island. It's the pity party.
Both initiatives, I think, play almost a common role. One is more business-oriented. The other is, I guess, based on the history. The Cyprus Diaspora Forum, you said 2 years in, you're running on the third year. I think we've been speaking here for more than an hour already.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I think in closing comments, maybe let's do a bit more about when is the next event, the Diaspora Forum, where people can find you, how does one participate, either in as a speaker maybe, or just in attendance. And anything else you want to add to it?
Well, Dino, thanks. It's a great opportunity to talk about it. The next forum will be at the Amara in Limassol from the 6th to the 8th of May. And then on the 9th of May, we have the gala dinner, which is going to take place at the Park Lane. This year, we surpassed the numbers. We did very well at the forum, and we had 450 people just at the gala dinner alone.
Oh.
So the interest that we're getting from all over the world, people that want to come and participate, attend, speak, all they need to do is visit the website. There's a pre-registration form there. The website is simple, cyprusdiasporaforum.com. There's a registration form there if you want to become a partner and sponsor, because this event is, we were fortunate this year to have the support of the Research and Innovation Foundation. Both Dimitris Koridis and Thodoros Lukaidis were superb. They identified with the importance of the event. We do have Invest Cyprus supporting it, and especially the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce have played a pivotal role in supporting the forum, because they've identified the economic impact and generally the impact that it has by bringing the Cypriots of the diaspora and encouraging them to relocate. Government support has been minimal, I'm not going to lie, but the interest is vast. We were very happy this year to finally get the recognition from the president, even though he was not able to attend. We did have a minister representing him. Anita Dimitriou has been amazing from the House of Representatives. So the government is identifying it because we said no politics.
Right.
We just said business. Mm-hmm. But it has to come from the private sector, because the private sector is the one that is showcasing not only does the local community want to engage with the Cypriots of the diaspora for the betterment, as I said, of Cyprus. The Cypriots of the diaspora want to come and learn on how to better promote Cyprus, some that don't want to relocate. But then we attract all these foreign investors that come here that are looking at industry leaders talking about Cyprus. And the government comes in and they talk about the strategies that are coming in place. And then we do have the negatives as well. We talk about them, but we also talk about the positives. So we do encourage a lot of sponsors, especially local companies that want to get on board to have the opportunity to speak, present their products through an expo that we have, and also through the various panel discussions or fireside chats. And then at the same time, we're also inviting at the moment, we've got a call for speakers. So anybody that's interested that wants to participate needs to just submit their bio, their CV, and we'll go through a process and then we'll be in touch. It's self-funded. It's obviously through the hard work of the team trying to get sponsors. It's a very expensive event because we hold it's held on a high level. We're very open about it. I think this year it cost us about 240,000 euros to stage it, because we're looking at a high level, especially when you're trying to communicate to high net worth individuals to invest. You can't do it.
You can't do something cheap.
You can't. But essentially, I'm just so happy that it's been embraced by everybody, both the locals and the community. And I was very happy with the one comment that said, the Cyprus Diaspora Forum is one of the most highly regarded events. And to quote President Christodoulidis, he said, it's now become a landmark event.
Yeah.
So that means a lot to us.
Of course.
You know, and I think the one industry that does take center stage is always the financial. You know, we always have that on the final day. It's always the Friday because the financials, the investors, the bankers, they all come on that day, and being a Friday, they kind of like it. It's a relaxed event where they get to meet people that are either interested in investing or looking at having their private wealth managed. And it also attracts the friends of Cyprus, a lot of people that have relocated here, because let's not forget that you are still a diasporan, whether you are a diasporan, now you've relocated to Cyprus because you're Cypriot, you're still a South African diasporan. So all these people that have relocated to Cyprus that are working here, contributing to the economic development, are equally diaspora to their respective countries. So that's why we don't call it the Cypriot Diaspora Forum. It's the Cyprus Diaspora Forum, the people that are working together within the diaspora to promote Cyprus and to take Cyprus to the next level. So I think that sums it up, you know.
Amazing. I wish you all the success.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for your time. This was an amazing discussion.
Thank you, and I thank you for the opportunity. I know I tend to talk a lot, but,
good.
you know, as I said, I'm really behind, you know, in front of the camera. So I'd rather, you know, take the opportunity and I'm here with you. But very well done on your podcast.
Thank you. I hope I made it... well, you made it easy for me too. You know,
thank you. Thanks, Dino.
Thank you. That's it. And it's a wrap.
Excellent.